I am going to start with the very first item on the agenda, which is our Enhancement Grants Program. And y'all, if you had a chance to look over the agenda before the phone call, will notice that the first 30 minutes is a little bit heavy in us giving you information. But as y'all recall, in our face-to-face meeting, we agreed that these sort of monthly or tri-monthly checkups is a great way for us at the center to tell you what we've been doing and maybe strong arm you for some of your opinions on things, but then spend time at our annual face-to-face meeting really digging into the teeth of what the center does and how we can collaborate in a better fashion. So the face-to-face meetings is where we're going to put y'all to work. So these meetings will be more of a download of information. So we're going to try and keep that short and sweet. And in that vein, I'm going to give you a quick update on our Enhancement Grants Program from 2016. And owing to a swap of computers today, I'm not going to use PowerPoint for the first set of information, although I will tell you that Rosemary's blog, the center blog, does have all the information on the Enhancement Grant winners from this year. So if I go too fast or you want more information on any project, feel free to check out our blog at sipmc.org. The first thing I wanted to mention is that we are rolling out sort of a new enhancement, not new enhancement grant program, but a new program with what used to be called crop profiles and PMSPs. Those of you who've been around for a while are familiar with documents where researchers will put together sort of a profile on either a crop or in some cases a pest, and we'll sort of look at the production in the state, why it's important to that state, and then different pest control or management options that you have in those crops. Traditionally, they were funded for a researcher to write the crop profile, and it became a PDF and thereby a stagnant document, which we then put online. And we have across the nation, we have over 800 of these documents. We have quite a few in the South. We've been pretty active in pursuing the development of those documents. However, we've gone to a new online system that Robin is getting prepared to roll out, and we'll probably hear about it more at the face-to-face meeting. And so we're taking these documents, and rather than having a sort of a stagnant PDF document form, we're putting it into a live online database. And I won't spend a lot more time with that. Again, we can talk about it later, but it's a very exciting project, and we now are sort of looking at the way that we do the funding for those, what we're calling IPM documents, differently. Originally, the funding for those projects was rolled out at the same time and as part of the same RFA as our Enhancement Grants Program. But because these documents are funded so differently and are applied for in a very different fashion, we've decided to separate those. And so now the IPM Enhancement Grants will come out, we hope, in the late fall and be on the same schedule that we've been on for a few years. And those will have a set open and close period and a set funding term. However, the IPM documents, as well as our Critical and Emerging Issues grant, are both considered open sort of enrollment for those grant programs. And we will continue to accept and read the RFAs that come in for those grants until the money for those grants has been fully dispersed. So with that, we have had one person apply for roughly a $3,000 document update, and that's Kentucky Profiles in Apple. And we will very likely fund that project, which is, I think, why I'm mentioning it to you. We haven't had any other programs apply for the funding for those, but Robin and I have been working very closely with some researchers in Puerto Rico, as well as a few other states. I think Florida's one, where folks are interested in updating documents, or better yet, developing documents that have never been before in the system. So we're hoping to see those come out again before our face-to-face meeting in September or later this fall. The projects that we did fund this year with our Enhancement Grants Program, there were 9 funded out of a total of 25. That was our highest ever number of enhancement grant applications. And I say that, and that's super exciting, but there was one time in the past where there were 24 enhancement grant applications. So we beat that by 1. So hopefully next year we'll have even more apply. The 9 that were funded are great projects, and of course the ones that weren't funded were great projects too, but we only had so much money. And I think I'm a little over time already, so I'm just going to talk really quickly about those 9 projects. We had 3 funded from North Carolina, 1 from Texas, 2 funded from Florida, 2 from Georgia, and 1 from Kentucky. And that's in addition to the Apple Crop Profile IPM Document Database project. We came in at funding at just over $250,000 for those 9 projects. And those 9 projects sort of run the gamut of IPM. We have a weed management project, insect management projects, and 2 new working groups. We have a new IPM working group for sustainable production of southern pea in the southern region. And we have a new working group called the Establishment of a Southern Region Brown Marmorated Stink Bug Working Group. And those are both out of Georgia. So let's see, we have plant diseases, we have weeds, we have insects, and so it's a truly IPM approach in this year's enhancement grant programs. And as I said, if you'd like to know more about those, Rosemary's posted all the award information on the blog. Does anyone have any questions before I move forward to the next step about the enhancement grants program? You can also just email me, give me a call if you have any questions about that program. Mostly I just wanted to give you a quick update. So we also, in our RFA, for those of you who read it in its entirety, I commend you for reading it, first of all. But you may remember that one of the things that we had said that we would fund was an annual meeting for PIs or PDs to come together in one location and present their research and talk about what they're doing. And again, that sort of falls under our category of enhancing collaboration and facilitation of research and extension, of course. And we just recently completed our first ever IPM roundtable that was here in March, and it was in conjunction with the Southern Branch meeting for the Entomology Society. And during that IPM roundtable, we also had a Sarah 03 meeting that we hosted here as well. And Marty Draper came to the meeting and presented some information that Joe and I thought might be nice for us to share with you. So what I'm going to do is just very briefly share my screen and share a few upcoming grant opportunities that those of you on the other side of my computer might be interested in applying for. I will add the caveat that these are Marty's slides. He did share them with me and said it was acceptable for me to share them with you. But I'm presenting his information, and so if you have questions specifically about any of his slides, I probably won't be able to answer those questions. You'll probably have to go to Marty himself. But I'll just take a quick second and share some of this with you, in particular because some of these deadlines are approaching, and we want to make sure that if you're interested, you have this information. So Joe, coach me through sharing here. Let's see.
Click share your screen and pick your screen.
Pick my screen. All right, I have done that. So you guys should see
Not quite yet. We're not seeing it yet.
Okay. Whoop.
There you go.
Okay, so I hope that y'all can see this PowerPoint presentation, which I'm trying to set up as a presentation. It should say CPPM Project Directors Meeting Roundtable. Do y'all see that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Charles, for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. So again, these are Marty's slides. So if y'all have any information or need any more information on these slides, please talk directly to Marty. And I'm sure anyone over there, Herb and Kathy Kimball-Day, might even be able to help us out. But again, they're Marty's slides. So just a heads up, they were expecting the next round of AFRI grants to be released very soon. And the very first one, they've changed the name. They call it ELI now, ELI, Education and Literacy Initiative. This used to be called the AFRI Fellows Awards. And these are for pre and postdoc folks. And as you can see, the close date is March 3rd. So those have already closed. And it looks to me like this is actually out of date because all of those have closed, but something to keep an eye on in the future. If you're interested in this grants program, they're hoping they'll come out again next March. The food security grants under the AFRI program, they are expecting those RFAs to come out soon. And I don't know what foundational means, but the CARE program, and I think I have a slide on that, is also expected to come out very soon. These are the Critical Agriculture Research and Extension grants, and they're for quite a bit of money, and Marty was really excited about these and really encouraged anyone who's in the IPM world to sort of look at these because they're very in tandem with what we're trying to do in the IPM world. They can be very applied and focused on problem solving, must have stakeholder support and engagement, and those are things that we all know just has to come with a successful program. And it's sort of looked at in the same terms as the research grants, the ARDP grants. So speaking of ARDP, the Crop Protection and Pest Management RFA for the center is already out, and we'll talk to you a little bit about that later. Essentially, we just need to write up what we're planning to do for the next year, and if anything changes, we'll let you know. We'll put that in. It's due May 1st. The extension IPM grants apparently will be coming out soon, as will the ARDP, those research grants focused on integrated pest management. This is just a quick slide that Marty put up that I thought if anyone was interested in writing a grant for any of these programs or any of these grants is probably important. He said some of the things that you need to address if you want to have a successful grant application is what makes your program relevant. So I think some of this is pretty obvious, but apparently it's not as obvious as I might think because Marty felt the need to share it. So what makes your program relevant? Who are your stakeholders, right? Who are you serving and what are they going to get out of it? And then, of course, we're going to circle back to impacts. What are the impacts? And we always look at in terms of IPM, we look at the economic impact, reducing risk to humans and environmental health. Lastly, he said there is a new collaborative opportunity available, particularly in urban pest management, where it intersects with Aedes mosquito management. And there are apparently a whole bunch of programs that are scrambling to get funding out there for experts in this arena. So just something that if you're not interested in, somebody you know or somebody in your area might be particularly interested in looking for funding for this. And I think, Joe, we're putting together some webinars on this virus, the Zika virus and mosquito management. So that might be something, if you know someone who's an expert in this area, maybe give Joe a call so that we can get them looped in the webinars. And then lastly, Marty mentioned this. He said, it's always easier to support funding when folks on Capitol Hill know what their funding is going towards. And so they rolled out this program called Share Your Science. And you can see that if you're on social media, they have a hashtag NIFA Impacts. And they encouraged us to send emails as well as tweets and other things to demonstrate what we're doing good in terms of science and how their funding is helping us save the world, I guess. Anyway, that was very quick, but I was trying not to go over my time. Joe, I'm all done. Unless anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer them.
We do have some time for questions if anyone has any. If you stop sharing your screen, we'll go to...
I don't know how.
I do have one question that you may not be able to answer, but...
This is Ken, right?
This is Scott.
Scott, sorry, Scott, I can't see anything now. Joe, I don't know how to stop sharing my screen. Go ahead, Scott.
I was curious on the AfriCare projects. It said they expect to be a $200,000 or even higher cap. Is that an annual cap?
And I can't answer your question, Scott. I'm sorry. Joe, you were there at the meeting. Henry was at the meeting too. I think it is an annual cap, but I don't remember.
From looking back at the old RFAs, that might be total. I have to wait till the RFA comes out to know for sure.
Yeah, I think, Joe, yes, I think that's the sense I got. I think it's probably total, but
Thanks. All right, shock and awe. I like that, as long as it's in a good way.
Okay. We also have time for questions at the end. So if you suddenly have a burning question, remember it, write it down. We'll come back to it when we get to the end. Next on our agenda, Rosemary is presenting what's been going on with the communication plan. She recently sent out an email to you all to see what she's working on.
Rosemary, you have to unmute.
Are you ready for me or? Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So I have, as you can see, filled in the communication plan. And instead of, originally what I was going to do was I was going to try to include every single member's organizations in here. And I realized that that was probably not a really great way to do it. So I decided to do groupings instead. There are a couple of entities that are still separate, like the Advisory Council, Sarah 3, which has kind of its own group, and then IR4 was separate also. But everybody else I kind of grouped. So the indicators are similar. I exchanged the communication output with exchange or service, because I realized as I thought about what I did for different groups that sometimes I do a service instead of giving them a product. So I might let somebody post on the blog, and that's not exactly a product, it's more of a service. So I opened that up also. If you all see that I have left any groups out, please let me know. And if there should be some groups that need to be more specified, that would be helpful too. I had one comment that there aren't any, we don't service any of the real IPM implementers like farmers or homeowners, and the center doesn't typically deal directly with the ground level people. We kind of deal with those above that level, just not to step on toes. So I would love to be more involved with farmers, but I'm not exactly sure how to go there. So so anyway, if I have missed a service that you know of with any of the groups, or you can think of something that we could be doing for them that I don't have up here, then let me know that as well. This is still a draft, but it is more together than it was a few months ago. And that's it, unless there's any comments or questions.
Any comments or questions from the group?
I have
This
some.
is Katie.
Go ahead, Katie.
Do you have county extension agents on this too? I looked at it quickly this morning.
I do not.
Okay, so that would, I think that might be an ad.
Okay, that would be separate from land grant scientists and extension.
Yes.
Okay.
Good catch, Katie.
Can you think of what we don't typically interact with extension agents. Can you think of
But you would have land grant. I mean, industry does. We interact with county extension, so there are means to get to them.
Okay.
Rosemary, may I add something that I meant to ask you to add and didn't? So I'll go ahead and add it.
Sure.
I wanted to remind everybody that in the last face-to-face advisory council meeting, we had asked everyone to provide a picture of themselves as well as a short bio. And I have this one. Of course, you can't see it. Rosemary's screen's up. Well, I have the one from our last face-to-face meeting in my hot little hands, and Rosemary probably knows who we're missing. But if we don't have your information for our directory, we would really encourage you to share your information with us so that when we have our next face-to-face meeting, we have this directory much better fleshed out. I found it really useful during the meeting, and I think that y'all will too once we get it finished. So Rosemary, maybe we can circle back to that after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Jean-Jacques, you're up.
Wait. Let me stop sharing my screen. Oh, stop sharing. Okay. All right.
There we go. Okay, so last meeting, last in-person meeting, there was pretty much unanimity among the members who were present over wanting to create a network map of IPM in our region, right? So it wouldn't be a network analysis, but it would be a map of the network as this group, the advisory council, sees it, right? Which is, an exercise that should be done as a group in common, right? And I would sort of direct and collate the gathering of information among us, right? And everybody was very eager to volunteer to do the work that is going to be involved. So here's how it's going to work. There's going to be, I don't see getting this done more shortly than 3 phases, 3 rounds. The first round is going to be to inventory all the parts of the this network of everybody who does IPM in some fashion or other in the Southeast region, right? And so each of you will need to open an Excel sheet. I will provide that sheet and start jotting it down until you've come up with every group you think is involved in IPM in our region, right? And the second round will be to I will then collate that, and we will all have the full list of everybody who's involved in IPM in the Southeast and in the Southern region, rather. And we will then establish the relationships amongst them as we see them, right? Because we can't, as we discussed previously, we can't go out and ask all of them what their relationships are with all the other actors, right? So we will fill that in the second round, and then that we pretty much have to do 2 rounds of that. And after that, I will have all the data to generate the map. At this point, I'm thinking that it would be nice it might be useful to have both persons and organizations, right? Because very often, if we are to use this in the future, it would be nice to have individuals that we can call, that we can contact. And so, but it's, that may be more demanding. So at first, we will try to inventory both the groups and organizations. And when I say organizations, it could be, the center, it could be the LaForest lab at Georgia University, it could be, the EPA region 5, any group, any set of more than 2 people who is involved in IPM, in other words, in the region. And then we'll worry about establishing their relationship. Now, in that first round, and I will give you the opportunity to do that, it would be useful to already, if you're willing to do the work, not only do the inventory, right, but also start establishing the relationships, right? And in the second run, there will be a limited set of relationships. For example, so and so is funded by, collaborates with, those, any kind of relationship between two groups or people, right, is part of that kind of thing. But in the first round, I'm not going to put any limits. And so if you are willing to make your list of all the groups or organizations that are doing IPM in the southern region, and then take that list again and say, and tell me, okay, this one does business with this one, and that one. And when I say does business, I mean, you suggest what the relationships might be. I can think of some, but I think that you might come up with very good ones that we haven't thought of. So that will be the first round, and it should be any minute now. And I will put this in an email because not everybody is here, obviously. So I will explain that again in an email. And I think that was well.
Do you want that limited only to the members of the advisory council, or do you wish us to distribute to other nice people who would actually be willing to fill this out?
Well, I thought maybe all the nice people were in the advisory committee already, but so Carrie, your microphone is off. I can see you talking. I don't know. That's a great idea. I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't. We shouldn't pass it along to our friends and relatives. And I mean, originally in October, the advisory committee volunteered, or the members who were there volunteered to do this. So, but more people would be even better. And honestly, not just the advisory council. I see, people like Joe, Danesha, and Rosemary, know everybody who's somebody, and they can. It would be great if they made a list of them of their own.
I will make a list of people who owe me favors, and I'll send it on to them. So
No. No, I mean in terms of collecting, a list of all the actors in IPM in the southern region. I know Rosemary in particular knows pretty much everybody.
So this is Katie Savanaugh. Are you going to send us the list that you have starting with so we can add to that list, or it's going to be a blank piece of paper?
Blank. The first round will be blank. The second round will be the compiled list of everything, of everybody, all the group has come up with. So the first one is the inventory, in other words. And I mean, would you like some sort of prompt, maybe?
What do you mean by prompts?
Well,
like as far as categories.
No, maybe like a set of 4 or 5 examples, just to get your mind running.
That would be helpful.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
So we do have a question from Carrie Harmon on, is she filling out the list, or do you want her Outlook contact book, her address book? How you're looking for her to provide a list of those people she knows to be involved in IPM?
The list of all people she knows are involved in IPM. I assume, if your grandmother or your aunt is in your Outlook, but that's not who I mean. but okay, but Carrie, if you have your Outlook address book already organized, with a folder with everybody who's in IPM, for example, then you're done.
So I guess my thought is this, that each of us that's a member of your advisory council may define who does IPM, what IPM is, a little bit differently. So
yes, thank you.
I don't know if others on the phone might, or on the webinar might appreciate a little bit of prompting. if you want us to focus at all. Obviously, I'm not going to give you my grandmother's phone number, but I'm probably going to give you everybody I think deals with pest detection, diagnosis, management, identification, research, teaching, anybody who might have anything to do with moving the message of integrated pest management. That's a lot of my Outlook contact book. Obviously, I'm not going to send you the whole thing, but that's where I was going with that question. I was being a little bit facetious, but for me to sit down and type out 350 people, do you want their contact information? You just want them. You want to know who they represent. What do you need? Or you're just going to use the names and you're going to see how many of the names cross-reference?
That's more like that. However, two things. I see what you're saying about IPM involvement. I think the idea we had in October, and correct me, people who were there if I'm wrong, was really people who do IPM, not necessarily people who might transmit information about IPM. In other words, I mean, I don't know if that's clear. The only thing is, a lot of people, and we've had many discussions about that. A lot of people really do things that we would consider are part of IPM, but they may not call themselves that, right? And you're muted again. Sorry about that. And so yes, I will provide better guidance about that. And so what Carrie brings up, and this is for everybody. We don't have to do persons, right? We could do persons in a further round, and first it would be a lot, there would probably be less work involved for everybody if we did only organizations at first, right? Because like Carrie was pointing out, those of us who are very connected, and that's quite a few of us, might have to list 400 people. That's kind of, some of you might find that excessive. Whereas if you list just groups or organizations, it would be simpler. And then in the second round, we can do, okay, if we want to deal with the Southern IPM Center, here are the people. We can fill that in. We can fill that in later, rather than first grab all the people and see exactly what organization they belong in. So I don't know. Do you all know roughly? I'm sure all of you have some kind of estimate right now about how many people that might involve. Are you up to listing all those people, or would you rather stick with just all the groups, all the organizations?
I have a question. I don't know. You hear me?
Who's this?
I think that's Peter. We can hear you faintly, but yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I think I just want us to revisit this a little bit. The most important thing that, in my own opinion, that needs to be done is that we need to have this information standardized in a way that I can compare what person A is giving in and what person B is giving in, so that when you develop the network is being developed using the same metrics. And so
yes,
it's going to be very, very important that certain standards be set up in terms of defining what's your IPM person organization, so that what I say, this is my organization or this is my group, I'm using the same metric that can actually be compared to somebody else. So without having those metrics standardized across, I mean, it's going to be very hard to develop that network that eventually relies on what you have to put it within the data set itself. And so I don't know how you intend to address that.
Yes, you're very much along the same line as Carrie, as I understand it, and we don't have that definition of standards yet. But yes, we will do that before asking you to generate that list.
Okay.
So not to wrap this up too briefly, but it sounds like Jean-Jacques is going to come up with some standards to send out to people with some instructions, the initial pages, and very soon you should expect to see that. So if you can block some time out to respond to that, that'll be a good thing.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. In the interest of time, we'll move on. We can take other questions later. Switching up to, I'm going to present a quick tech topic. You guys said, I really like to hear some of the new technology that's going on and how we can take advantage of it. So what I'm focusing on today is pest data sharing, that there is some great stuff going on nationally regarding sharing of pest data. The reasons they're doing this is, if you build a great system or you're great at one thing, you have to kind of be horrible at something else. So a lot of systems are built with specific purposes in mind. Despite that, they're collecting some of the same data. And so it's really helpful when they actually share to collaborate on where this stuff goes rather than competing. We've had some examples of where this has come in, that the USDA plants database, great system, wonderful information. However, when you look at the distribution they have of something like Japanese honeysuckle in Georgia, most people who look at this map go, really? I thought we had a little more of that. Well, after you get people to discuss things, turns out we've got a far more complete distribution of that once all partners come to the table and start sharing information. So in the spirit of sharing stuff, it's also not always about the pest. Sometimes it's about the alternate hosts, that in this case for Tree of Heaven, both brown marmorated stink bug and spotted lanternfly are both really big fans of it. And so knowing where additional distribution of other things that could be helpful in making up different models. It would also be handy if some of this information was available for future research and development of models, that it's amazing how data can get lost in different places where someone retired and, well, it was on an Excel sheet somewhere on their computer. Maybe we might find it one day, or maybe it's lost to the ether. With data sharing, we also have opportunities to build relationships between programs, that you may not realize that the Army Corps of Engineers has a vested interest in Tawny Crazy Ant, as do other folks in the IPM community. And getting everyone to actually communicate helps build programs and even to come up with some new collaborations that could take place. So many of you are familiar with EdMaps. The reason we keep talking about this is because one of the systems I work on, and it's something being offered to anyone that wants to use it nationwide. Its purpose isn't to replace anyone's system. It very much realizes that it's only good at certain things. And what it chooses to be good at is aggregating data from other systems so that we can look at this data from varying scales, different resolutions, different level of completeness, and make it available to other folks. That's what it's been designed for, and that's what it stays true to. It's already gotten a whole lot of folks that like this idea and have voluntarily contributed data in it so we can actually share information between different partners. This has actually expanded out quite a bit in what we've been looking at with iPipe, that many of you know that was funded through the AFRI. iPipe has all these crop pest program, and in the iPipe proposal, it sets up EdMaps as a pest observation depository, that after a period of 3 years, the data from that program would become available for anyone to use. And with this, we are recruiting data from all kinds of partners, from the Southern Plant Diagnostic Network, from different folks that are working with us, through Montana Pest Web, all these folks to bring data in so that we can all have some common data to work off of and see where these pests have been, see what they're doing, and make it available to researchers to be able to use in the future, and even help our growers in real time during the field season. So I'll end my talk with a call for data. We are looking for more people to get involved in this effort, to share data. We're going to fill in gaps in both time and space. So if you have old historical data, that would be great. If it's something you thought maybe one day I'll publish on this and it's been 15 years, that data maybe could see the light of day and be used to fill in some of these gaps. We're looking at insects, diseases, weeds, hosts, biocontrol agents, and we're not focusing on only the pests. Or sorry, we're not focusing on only the invasives. We're also focusing on some of the common stuff. Heterobasidium monosum. Everyone knows it's in the southern region. Everyone's seen a map where someone at one point decided, I'm going to draw a line, and oh yeah, that's definitely what I think the distribution is. Can we actually back this up with some real data to say where things are at? So if you happen to know of someone who has data, please send this out through all of your networks. We're seeing what we can do to help pull some of this information together and make it available. The minimum we need is who reported it, where is it on a county level. We can go deeper than that, but county is fine. When, and I'll accept what year and what. And that can be a species, it can be a complex. We'll gladly take more detail, but we think there's a lot that can be done gleaning some of this information from different places where it's kind of sitting there. Maybe it's been published, maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's something I just collected on a fluke. Well, there's a lot of this we could actually use to do something with it. So with that, I'll go ahead and end my part of technology. Any questions, comments?
How do they submit the data?
They submit the data by first talking to me. That will help me get an idea of what they have. The eventual answer will be, we do have a place where they can submit bulk data in just about any format. Excel, shapefiles, CSVs. There's all kinds of ways it can come in. And we have someone who's in charge of helping to massage all of that. We also have people that are starting to use our new API, which for you geeks in the audience, is computers talking to computers. So that in real time, and this is how the pipe is doing it, they are submitting reports as they're coming in. So it's possible to have some very nice in-season data sharing. There's all kinds of information we're starting to pull in from this. This is going to be the first year we're looking at it. And at the International Congress of Entomology in Orlando this year, we're having a symposia on data sharing. End of the World or New Horizons, I believe is the title. So we're talking about all the folks in this data sharing ecosystem, and if it went well for them, if it went badly for them, what they think of it from their perspective. With that, I think we'll move into our next topic, which is planning the next advisory council meeting. We're going to start with a quick poll. I know how much you all love polls, but we want to figure out where we're actually going to have this meeting. We will send this around to other folks as well, but right now in your chat, you have an option to go in and tell us what city you would like to see the advisory council meeting in. Our choices are Atlanta, Georgia, Raleigh, North Carolina, or Dallas, Texas. Feel free to start voting anytime. Somebody hit the button to take us forward on a question. So let us know which of these things you actually want to, what city you'd like to go into. As we only have so many folks on this call, you guys kind of get first vote on this, and we'll take it forward from there.
How do you vote, Joe?
So, did I send the wrong?
I don't see any buttons that you can mash that will let you vote.
Yeah, that's the link to the results, Joe.
Yeah, pardon me. I'm being a moron today. Let me try this again. All right, so the new link. in the window. I love technology when it works. We'll actually let you vote.
Yep, this is it.
So please vote for what your results are. So they're coming in fast and furious. Unfortunately, not a lot of people like Dallas, Texas. I don't know why. I hear they have good barbecue.
Share your screen, Joe, so we can see how the vote's going.
That would probably be a good idea, huh?
Or you can just tell us where you want to go and we'll.
So we've currently got Raleigh is currently in the lead. 2 people for Dallas, Texas. I'm thinking I know which ones. I think they're in Dallas.
Joe, how many votes can we cast? We can cast 3. I mean, we can pick 3 cities, right?
Yes.
If we're indifferent.
This is voting for all the cities you like. So if you say, I never want to go to Dallas, I don't like their metro system, don't vote for Dallas. If you think Atlanta is just way too crowded, there's too many people, don't vote for Atlanta. But you can vote for both Raleigh and somewhere else.
All right.
It appears the voting has slowed down. It's looking like we're looking at Raleigh, North Carolina. That actually works out pretty well for the IPM Center staff because, well, most of them are already there.
Yeah, that's probably who's voting.
So
you guys have people on the call.
Right. This is only representing the advisory council that actually made it to today's call. Does that represent a quorum of your advisory council? I think it does.
It does.
Making sure that this vote, if you're going to use this as official.
And this actually matches the last time we did the same options. Everyone said, well, I would go to Atlanta or Raleigh. Dallas, I don't know why I can't sell Dallas. I've watched a lot of Dallas. I think it would be great.
Well, I only voted for one. I can't go back and vote for another one now.
Yeah, same here.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, Joe, we're running out of time. We've got 2 minutes.
Our next one is probably the more important one. So you all should have seen the poll change. What week works for you? Looking at what the advisory council has told us in the past. They want it after Labor Day, but before we go to the National IPM Coordination Meeting. To hit that window, Labor Day weekend, nobody ever wants to use that one. International Congress of Entomology is the week following this.
Hello.
So if any of these weeks work for you, mark them down and we'll go from this to a doodle poll so that we can actually find out if we're going to have this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. The meeting is a noon to noon meeting. Why? Because the advisory council asked for it so they can have an evening to get to know people. And that helps for a lot of our other topics. It's also a little less hectic than all of it in one day.
That looks pretty good.
So it looks like we got good votes in. So we will do a doodle poll for the week of September 12th to find out what days of that week people are actually looking for. Our last topic for today's meeting is pending topics for that in-person advisory council meeting. Yes, I know we have another online meeting between here and there. However, we want to start planning to make sure the meeting's awesome. So we are going to have what direction the center is going into and something on technology like we normally do. We would like to turn the tables on our advisory council. You hear us talk all the time and give updates. It's time that some of you have stuff that you want other members of the advisory council to know about. We'd like to know more about what your group's doing, what initiatives you have, how the center can help you better, and maybe how other people in the advisory council could help your group. So I'm not going to put any of you on the spot here, but if someone has a burning desire to tell us or to present at the next advisory council meeting on the wonderful things the organization you are representing is doing, let me know. We need to start getting this together so people can plan what they're going to do, make sure we have the right people at the meeting. So other topics that you might want to hear. Does anyone have any burning topics that are just in their heart they really wish we have at our next meeting?
You can always email us, of course, if you get off the phone and then think of it afterwards.
Have you been liking these meetings? You actually showed up. This is pretty good. I'm seeing some nods.
And some thumbs up. Excellent.
Okay, good. One good reason to have a webcam, you can do a thumbs up. Okay, well, we've done a pretty decent job of staying close to time. If anyone has any other questions, I'm willing to stay on and chat. Other than that, we've covered what we expected to on this meeting. We will follow up with arrangements for an in-person meeting.